Your mind can do something cruel. It can make you believe that being liked is more important than being free. And the worst part, you don't even notice it. You think you're playing it safe, being humble, being smart, but deep down, you're just afraid to be disliked. And that fear is the silent killer of success. Because the truth is harsh, people who need constant approval rarely lead, rarely risk, and almost never rise. The hunger for validation isn't just emotional, it's financial. It keeps you broke, stuck, and invisible. Carl Jung warned us, what we reject in ourselves we project onto the world, and those who seek approval at all costs are usually running from something inside, a deep belief that they're not enough unless someone says they are. But here's the paradox. The more you chase validation, the less authentic you become, and success, real success, has no tolerance for inauthenticity. In this video, you'll understand the hidden belief that might be blocking your path, and how breaking free from it can unlock not just your confidence, but your future. Your mind is a talented lawyer. It will defend even the lie that's destroying you, as long as it aligns with what you believe. That's not poetry, that's psychology. You see, long before you face a situation in the outer world, your mind has already prepared a story about it. And that story is not neutral. It is loaded with assumptions, emotions, past experiences, and above all, a belief. What you believe becomes the lens, and the lens always colors the view. Carl Jung understood this with clarity few others ever did. He saw that the unconscious mind doesn't just influence our reality, it builds it. If you believe you're unworthy, your mind will find ways to confirm it, not because it hates you, but because it's trying to keep your world consistent. It's like a loyal but misguided friend who wants to make sure nothing ever surprises you, even if that means repeating the same pain over and over. The truth is, we rarely see reality for what it is. We see it for what we expect it to be. That's why two people can go through the same event and leave with completely different stories. One sees rejection, the other sees redirection. One feels cursed, the other feels called. It's not magic, it's mindset. And it all comes down to the stories we silently believe, even when we don't know we're telling them. Now ask yourself, when was the last time you questioned the stories in your head, the silent conclusions you draw before anything even happens? If your beliefs were a courtroom, would they be seeking truth, or just looking to prove a point? Jung would say that the unconscious projects itself onto the world, not just reflecting what's inside, but distorting what's outside to match the inner script. We all crave consistency. It makes us feel safe. But that craving left unchecked turns into a cage, and inside that cage your beliefs become bricks, heavy, familiar, false, and yet comforting. But here's the thing. If the mind is powerful enough to defend a lie, what could it do if it chose to believe in your greatness? That's where our journey begins. Most people walk through life thinking they see the world as it is. But in truth, they only see what their beliefs allow them to. The mind is not a camera. It's a projector. It doesn't just receive information, it reshapes it, filters it, colors it, and every time you encounter something new, your mind quietly asks, does this match what I already believe? If the answer is yes, it embraces it. If not, it resists, denies, or simply ignores it. That's why people stuck in failure often stay stuck. It's not lack of opportunity, it's the invisible filter of belief telling them, this isn't for you, this isn't real, you don't deserve this. And once that belief settles in, the mind works overtime to find proof, a rejected job application. See, I told you. A missed call from someone important? They don't care. A good opportunity? It's too good to be true. The mind becomes a machine, printing evidence for your own limitations. But this filter isn't evil. It's protective. It tries to keep your world familiar, predictable, survivable. The problem is, it also keeps you from growing. Jung called this the complex, a bundle of thoughts and emotions anchored in past wounds, shaping your present choices. You think you're making rational decisions, but often you're just obeying old programming disguised as logic. Let's go deeper. Every time you think, "I knew this would happen," what you're really saying is, "My belief found its proof." This isn't coincidence. It's confirmation bias, the mind's tendency to search for, interpret, and recall information that supports what it already believes. It's not about truth, it's about consistency. And that consistency can become a trap, because the mind is desperate to be right, even if being right means staying in pain. Even if being right means never rising, never risking, never receiving. It's a paradox. Your mind will sabotage your success just to avoid breaking a belief. And the longer you live inside that invisible filter, the more real it feels. But what if your reality isn't broken? Just your lens. There's a silent tragedy that happens every day. Someone wakes up already believing the worst about themselves, and then, without realizing, spends the rest of the day gathering evidence to confirm it. Not because they enjoy the suffering, but because their mind has learned to find safety in the familiar. That belief buried deep becomes a compass, and it points toward pain. A late reply becomes proof they're being ignored. A missed opportunity becomes proof they're not lucky. A compliment? Just someone being polite. This isn't life happening to them. It's belief shaping life. This is the darker side of the psyche, the space Carl Jung called the shadow. It's not evil, it's repressed. It's everything about ourselves we refuse to see, acknowledge, or feel, and it doesn't stay quiet. It acts like a ghost behind your thoughts, whispering things that sound like logic but are soaked in fear. Don't trust them. Don't try again. Stay small. The shadow isn't just in nightmares. It lives in the everyday decisions you avoid, the dreams you delay, and the love you don't allow yourself to receive. And here's the cruelest trick of the mind. When the shadow speaks, it doesn't sound foreign. It sounds like you. That's what makes it dangerous. You believe you're thinking for yourself, but really you're thinking from your wounds. From that abandoned child who never felt enough. From that teenager who failed once and decided never to try again. From that adult who now believes the safest place in the world is invisibility. These voices are old, and they are convincing. The worst beliefs are the quiet ones, the ones that have become so normal, they go unquestioned. I always mess things up. I never get chosen. Good things don't happen to people like me. They hide in jokes, in silence, in overworking, in not asking for help. They aren't just sentences, they're survival strategies that turned into cages, and even when the door is open, you stay inside. Because your mind keeps saying, "At least it's safe in here." But here's the paradox. The longer you stay in the prison of those beliefs, the more real they feel. You start seeing your life as a reflection of truth, when it's really just a projection of fear. You're not seeing your limits, you're seeing your expectations, and unless you name that lie, it will keep writing your life story. But once you confront it, something powerful happens. The illusion starts to crack, and through that crack, the light gets in. Most people don't realize this, but we're not just reacting to the world, we're constantly projecting onto it. Jung taught that what we refuse to face within ourselves doesn't disappear. It looks for a screen, and that screen becomes other people. A father sees weakness in his son, not knowing it's his own vulnerability he's rejected. A boss punishes ambition in others, not realizing it mirrors the dreams he gave up. We judge, we criticize, we hate, but often we're only seeing reflections of what we've buried. This is how the shadow works. It doesn't just live in the dark corners of your psyche. It wears masks. It shows up in your relationships, in your triggers, in your jealousy, in your fear. When you find yourself overreacting to something small or despising someone without reason, pause. Ask yourself, what part of me am I refusing to meet? Because if you don't own your shadow, it will own you. And worse, It will make you believe the enemy is out there when in truth the battlefield is within. The danger is that the mind doesn't stop to verify. It doesn't say, wait, maybe I'm projecting. No, it says, look at them. They're the problem. And just like that, the belief finds its proof. You begin to attract situations, interpret behaviors, and create narratives that match your inner world. You say, people always let me down, and suddenly you notice every flaw, every delay, every mistake. Not because the world changed, but because your perception did. Here's the twist. The more intense the emotional charge, the more likely you're dealing with your own shadow. That anger, that jealousy, that fear of being seen, they're not signals to attack others, they're invitations to look inward. And that's not easy. No one likes to admit, this pain might be mine. But until you do, the world will remain a distorted mirror, reflecting back the parts of you still unloved, unhealed, and unseen. And yet, this isn't a message of despair. It's a message of power. Because if your mind can distort the world through projection, it can also transform it through integration. The moment you begin to reclaim those lost parts of yourself, the world outside begins to soften, and what once felt like war starts to feel like peace. If your beliefs were seeds, your life would be the garden. And here's the truth. What you believe about yourself deep down eventually shows up around you. Not immediately, not dramatically, but slowly, silently, consistently. You think it's life confirming your doubts, when in fact it's your doubts shaping your life. That's the nature of a self-fulfilling prophecy. You expect pain, you walk cautiously, you withdraw, and people feel the distance. You expect failure, you sabotage your efforts, you hesitate, and success slips through your fingers. That's how powerful belief is. It doesn't just influence your mood, it creates patterns. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you believe you deserve. And this is where so many dreams quietly die, not in storms, but in silence, in the small daily choices made from fear, in the jobs not applied for, the ideas not spoken, the love not accepted. Not because you're incapable, but because a quiet voice inside whispers, this isn't for you. But what if it is? What if the door was always open, but you never walked through because your mind told you it was locked? Carl Jung believed that once something becomes conscious, it stops controlling us from the shadows. So ask yourself, which belief has been writing your story? And more importantly, is it still worth carrying? Sometimes all it takes is a moment of clarity, a decision to stop feeding the lie and plant something new, a new belief, a new truth, one that says, I am allowed to win, I am allowed to receive, I am allowed to grow beyond this version of me. This isn't wishful thinking, this is spiritual alignment. Your life starts to reflect your inner world the moment your inner world aligns with who you really are, not who you were taught to be. And if something in you felt that, then write it down, not just to remember, but to declare, today I choose to believe in what sets me free. That one sentence, written with intention, can become the seed of a new reality. Because when the belief changes, everything changes. So how do you break the cycle? How do you stop living in a world shaped by fear, doubt, and old wounds pretending to be facts? The first step is painfully simple: awareness. Jung taught that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. That means you have to slow down enough to observe, to catch yourself in the act of filtering, projecting, assuming. You begin by noticing the automatic thoughts and questioning them gently but firmly. Is this belief helping me or hurting me? Because you can't change what you refuse to see, and most people never pause to see their own patterns. They're too busy reacting. But reaction is the enemy of transformation. Reaction keeps you in the loop. Observation, on the other hand, opens a door to choice. When you become the observer of your own mind, you're no longer just a character in the story. You become the author. You regain authorship over your narrative. This isn't about pretending bad things don't happen. It's about refusing to let your old story decide the meaning of every new event. A closed door doesn't mean rejection. It might mean redirection. A failure doesn't mean you're doomed. It might be the friction needed for growth. When you begin to rewrite the meaning, the experience begins to shift. Life starts to show you new patterns. Not because it changed, but because you did. Think of your mind like a camera lens. For years, it's been focused on proof of your limitations. But what happens if you shift the focus? What if, just for a moment, you started looking for signs of growth, connection, strength? At first, it feels fake, like you're forcing it. But slowly, a new reality begins to emerge. Not because you're inventing it, but because you're finally seeing what was always there, just hidden behind your old expectations. And this is where power returns to you. When you stop feeding the cycle, you begin to reclaim your freedom. The world outside becomes less hostile, less fixed, less final. And in that spaciousness, you realize something beautiful. You were never stuck, only believing you were. The unconscious mind is like soil. It doesn't care what you plant, it just grows what you feed it. That's why reprogramming it isn't just about positive thinking. It's about intentional repetition, emotional truth, and spiritual alignment. Every time you repeat a new belief with feeling, you're watering a new root. Not with force, but with faith. Not to erase the past, but to stop letting it define the future. Jung believed that symbols, rituals, and imagination were gateways into the unconscious. That's why affirmations only work when they reach beyond logic and touch your emotional core. Saying, "I am worthy," means nothing if you whisper it with shame. But when you speak it with conviction, while visualizing a life where you walk in that worth, something shifts. The unconscious listens, and it starts to replace the old program with a new one. This is not a quick fix. It's daily, it's uncomfortable, it feels fake at first. But so did your pain once. Remember that. The beliefs that feel natural today once felt foreign too, until you repeated them enough. That's how the mind works. It learns by repetition. It obeys by emotion. If you can feel the truth of your new story more intensely than the memory of your old one, the shift begins. Don't underestimate the spiritual force behind this process. When you align your beliefs with the truth of your divine potential, you activate something ancient and sacred. The universe doesn't respond to what you say, it responds to what you embody. When your thoughts, feelings, and actions align with growth, abundance, and healing, you start to experience synchronicities. Doors open. People change. You change. And in that change, you don't become someone else. You return to who you were before the fear, before the lies, before the world told you to shrink. That's the true power of reprogramming. Not to become new, but to remember who you really are. Most people wait for proof before they believe. They say, "I'll believe I'm worthy when someone chooses me. I'll believe I'm capable when I succeed." But that's not how the mind works. That's not how transformation happens. Jung would say, first comes the belief, then comes the evidence. First comes the decision to see differently, and only then the world starts to reflect that new vision back. You can't wait for life to hand you the mirror of your greatness. You have to bring the mirror with you, because the mind doesn't respond to external validation, it responds to internal conviction. When you walk like someone who is loved, the world softens. When you speak like someone who is chosen, people listen differently. It's not manipulation, it's vibration. And vibration starts with belief. This is why the shift is spiritual. It requires something deeper than logic. It's choosing to believe in what you can't yet touch. It's seeing the seed, not the tree, and still watering it. That's the power of inner vision. You believe not because it's easy. You believe because your soul remembers what your mind forgot, that you are meant for more, that you are already enough, that you were never broken, just buried. So here's the invitation. Stop waiting for proof. Start being the proof. Let your actions reflect your new belief. Let your habits match the life you haven't seen yet, but know in your bones is possible. That is how you train your mind to serve your expansion, not your fear. That is how you shift from repeating your history to creating your destiny. Because at the end of it all, it's not about seeing to believe. It's about believing, so you can finally see. The greatest prison is not built with walls, it's built with beliefs. And yet, that prison is unlocked from the inside. Every time you choose to believe in what sets you free, you weaken the chains. Every moment of awareness, every new choice, every silent affirmation of worth, it all matters. You are not what happened to you, you are what you decide to believe now. And when you choose to see yourself with truth instead of fear, the world responds with grace. If this message stirred something inside you, don't let it fade. Feed it. Protect it. Let it grow. And now, take the next step. Click and watch the video that's appearing on your screen. There, we'll dive even deeper into the mysteries of your mind and how to break the emotional patterns that have silently ruled your life. Your transformation doesn't end here. It's just beginning.